The great chamber of Harmony's End Station fell silent as High Counselor Vextar rose from his crystalline throne. His 6 arms spread wide, each one ending in claws that could cut through steel. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 12 major species watched with barely hidden satisfaction. Ambassador Li Ye-jin sat alone in the human section, looking small and fragile compared to the massive aliens surrounding her. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore the plain, gray uniform that humans always chose for diplomatic meetings. She kept her eyes down, hands folded in her lap. "The time for patience has ended," Vextar announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. "Humanity has spread like a plague across 47 star systems. You take resources that belong to superior races. You build colonies where you have no right to exist." General Mordak of the Kytherians stood next. His reptilian form towered over even the tall Zephyrians, scales gleaming under the chamber's lights. "Our military analysis is complete. Humans possess no significant defensive capabilities. Your ships are slow and poorly armed. Your soldiers are weak and untrained." Ambassador Li finally looked up. Her face showed no emotion, but she nodded slightly. "We understand your concerns. Honored representatives. Concerns?" Vextar's laugh was like breaking stones. "These are not concerns, human. This is your final warning. You will abandon all 47 contested systems within 30 standard days. You will return all extracted resources and compensate the rightful owners. You will restrict your species to your original 12 worlds." The other alien representatives began making sounds of approval. The Vraxians clicked their mandibles. The Tholian delegation hummed in harmony. Even the normally quiet Epsilon Collective flashed approval in their bioluminescent patches. Lee stood slowly. She was barely 5 feet tall, looking like a child among giants. Vexistar's claws extended fully. "Then we will remove you. Completely. From the galaxy." "All of you?" Lee asked quietly. "All 12 species will work together against us?" "Child," rumbled Mordak. "We have 5,000 heavy cruisers between our fleets. You have maybe 300 ships total. We have warriors bred for combat across 100 worlds. You have farmers and traders playing at soldiers." He leaned forward, his massive head filling Lee's vision. "This is not a war. It will be an extermination." Lee was quiet for a long moment. Around the chamber, alien representatives began to whisper among themselves. Some were already discussing how to divide human territories once the species was gone. "I need to contact my government," Lee said finally. "You have 6 hours," Vextar declared. "Then you will give us your answer." Lee bowed her head and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps were soft on the metal floor, almost silent compared to the heavy breathing and clicking sounds the aliens made. As she reached the door, she turned back. "High Counselor. May I ask one question?" Vextar waved a dismissive claw. "Speak. In all your military analysis, did you ever wonder why we spread so slowly? Why we always seemed to arrive at systems just after you had finished fighting among yourselves?" The chamber went quiet. Mordak's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Lee smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, barely visible. "Nothing important. I will have your answer in 6 hours. A. 2. She left the chamber, and the heavy doors sealed behind her. The aliens immediately began talking among themselves, but their voices sounded less confident than before. 3 hours later, on the human civilian transport ship Morning Star, Captain Jin Su-min received an encrypted message. She read it twice, then deleted it from her system. The message had been only 4 words. "Protocol 7 is active." Jin walked to her cabin and opened a sealed container hidden behind her desk. Inside was a communication device she had never used. She activated it and waited. "Jin." The voice that answered was calm and measured. "Dr. Park?" Good. How long until you reach the border systems? Jin checked her navigation display. 18 hours, if we push the engines. Push them. The masquerade ends in 30 days. Maybe less. What about the evacuation? Dr. Park Hyun-woo was quiet for a moment. There is no evacuation, Jin. There never was. Check your sealed orders. Mina. Jin opened another hidden compartment. Inside was a data pad, marked with symbols she had seen only in training. Years ago, she activated it and began to read. Her eyes widened. How long have we been preparing for this? She asked. Since we first met them, Park replied. Since they first looked at us and saw prey instead of predators. Every trade agreement, every diplomatic meeting, every small conflict where we seem to lose. And the archive? Complete. Every species, every ship class, every tactical pattern, biological weaknesses, psychological profiles, command structures. We know them better than they know themselves. Jin looked out her ship's viewport at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were already moving toward human space. They expected to find frightened refugees running for their lives. They were wrong. What about Ambassador Lee? Jin asked. She'll give them their answer in 3 hours. She'll accept their ultimatum and request safe passage for civilian evacuations. And then, Park's voice carried the hint of a smile. Then they'll learn what humans actually are, and why we've been so patient all these years. The connection ended. Jin sat in her chair, reading through her real orders. Around her, the Morningstar's engines hummed with increasing power. Behind her, 30 other ships that looked like civilian transports followed in formation. None of them were transports. None of them carried refugees. The hunt was about to begin. Dr. Park Hyun-woo stood in his laboratory deep beneath the surface of Kepler 442b, one of humanity's oldest colonies. The room looked like any other research facility, with clean white walls and standard equipment. But behind the false wall was something no alien had ever seen. The archive. Park pressed his palm to the hidden scanner, and the wall slid away. Beyond was a massive chamber filled with holographic displays, data cores, and processing units. Information flowed like rivers of light through the air. Show me the Zephyrian file, Park said aloud. A three-dimensional image appeared before him. It showed High Counselor Vextar in perfect detail. But around the image were thousands of data points. Heart rate patterns, stress responses, combat reflexes, psychological analysis, genetic markers, even the exact chemical composition of his blood. Weakness assessment, Park commanded. New data replaced the image. Zephyrians were strong, but their crystal-based biology made them vulnerable to specific sonic frequencies. Their 6 arms gave them reach advantages, but also created balance problems during rapid movement. Most importantly, their pack mentality meant they would panic if separated from their command structure. Park had been gathering this information for 23 years. Every time humans had traded with Zephyrians, every diplomatic meeting, every cultural exchange, all of it had been intelligence gathering. The aliens thought humans were curious about their cultures. They had no idea humans were cataloging their weaknesses. Next file. Catherians. The display shifted to show General Mordak. This file was even more detailed. Catherians were reptilian predators, but they had evolved on a world with low gravity. In standard gravity, their massive size became a disadvantage. Their scales could stop most energy weapons, but Park had discovered they conducted heat extremely well. A focused thermal attack would cook them alive inside their own armor. More importantly, Caitherians were territorial hunters who fought best alone. Force them to work closely with other species, and their natural instincts would create confusion and conflict. Park smiled as he reviewed the data. 23 years of careful study. The aliens had dismissed humans as harmless traders and scientists. They had no idea that every human who smiled and asked innocent questions was a spy gathering information for war. His communicator buzzed. "Park here. It's Jin. I'm in position at the Hadrian system. The evacuees are boarding now." Park switched his display to show the Hadrian system in real time. What looked like a standard evacuation was actually something very different. The ships approaching Jin's transport were not filled with frightened civilians. They were packed with soldiers and weapons that had been secretly positioned throughout human space over decades. "How many ships?" Park asked. 47 in my group. Captain Choi reports 39 in her sector. Commander Yoon has 52. Jin paused. "The aliens are watching from the outer system. They think we're running scared." "Perfect. What about the supply drops?" "Already completed. Every refugee ship has full military loadouts. The civilians are actually on the deep colonies, safe and waiting." Park nodded. The civilian evacuations had been real, but not for the reasons the aliens thought. Human families had been moved to hidden colonies beyond the galactic rim months ago. Not because they were fleeing in fear, but because humanity was preparing for war. "Doctor," Jin's voice carried a note of curiosity, "how long have we been planning this?" Park closed his eyes, remembering. First contact was at the Rigel station, 15 years ago. No. That was first official contact. We actually found them 53 years ago, when our deep scouts reached the Vega system. Park called up an old file. They were in the middle of exterminating a species called the Melodai. Peaceful plant-based beings who had developed beautiful music and art. The Zephyrians burned their worlds and took their resources. Jin was quiet. We watched from hidden observation posts. We recorded everything. We learned that the galaxy was full of predators who destroyed anyone weaker than themselves. Park's voice grew hard. So we decided to appear weak. We made contact years later, acting like simple traders who had just discovered faster-than-light travel. We let them think we were naive and helpless. While we studied them, while we learned to hunt them. On his display, Park could see alien reconnaissance ships observing the human evacuation. They were broadcasting reports back to their fleets, describing frightened refugees fleeing in outdated ships. The alien commanders were probably laughing. They would not be laughing much longer. "Park," Jin said, "I'm getting reports from other sectors. Something strange is happening." "Explain." "The aliens are moving faster than expected. Zephyrian advanced scouts have already entered the Tau Ceti system. Catherian battle groups are mobilizing 3 days ahead of schedule." Park frowned and called up fleet movement data. Jin was right. The alien coalition was not waiting the full 30 days. They were beginning their attack early, probably hoping to catch humans completely unprepared. "They're eager," Park murmured. "They want to start the extermination. Should I accelerate the timeline?" Park considered. The original plan called for 29 more days of preparation. But humans had been preparing for this war for decades, not weeks. They were already ready. "Contact Fleet Admiral Cho," Park said. "Tell him the aliens have chosen to begin early. Ask if we should accommodate their schedule. And if he says yes?" Park looked at his wall of data, thousands upon thousands of files detailing every weakness of every species that had threatened humanity. For 53 years, humans had been the galaxy's greatest actors, pretending to be harmless while becoming the most dangerous predators in known space. The masquerade was about to end. "Then we show them what we really are," Park said. "Signal all units. Protocol 7 is now active across all sectors. The evacuation phase is complete." "Understood. What about the aliens watching us?" Park smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Let them watch. Let them think they're observing frightened prey running for safety. In 6 hours, they'll learn the difference between prey and predator." He closed the communication and turned back to the archive. In 6 hours, 53 years of careful planning would finally come to fruition. The aliens had given humanity one last warning. They were about to discover they had been warning the wrong species. Admiral Kex-Tar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet felt satisfaction as he watched the human ships fleeing through the Proxima system. His sensors showed 43 vessels of various sizes, all broadcasting civilian identification codes. They were running with their engines at maximum power, just as frightened prey should. "Pathetic," muttered his tactical officer. "Look how they scatter. No formation, no coordination. They're not even trying to fight." Kex-Tar clicked his claws against his command chair. Why should they fight? They know they cannot win. At least they show wisdom in fleeing. His fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and 34 destroyer-class vessels. Each cruiser alone was more powerful than anything in the human fleet. This would not be a battle. It would be a simple cleanup operation. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the lead human vessel is requesting safe passage. They claim to be carrying refugees from the outer colonies. Denied. Board and search every ship. If they resist, destroy them." "Understood, Admiral." But as Kex-Tar's ships moved to intercept the fleeing humans, something unexpected happened. The scattered civilian vessels suddenly changed course and formed a perfect attack formation. What had looked like panicked retreat became precise tactical movement. "Sir, the humans are turning around." Kex-Tar felt his first moment of unease. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports show they have no military training." The lead human ship opened a communication channel. A human female appeared on screen. She wore a simple gray uniform, but her eyes were sharp and calculating. "This is Captain Jin Su-min of the Human Defense Force." Kex-Tar's unease turned to anger. "Human, you will surrender your ships or we will destroy you." Captain Jin smiled. It was the smile of a predator who had just cornered her prey. "Admiral, before you make any threats, I suggest you scan our ships more carefully." Kex-Tar gestured to his sensor officer, who ran detailed scans of the human vessels. The officer's face changed color. "Sir, these are not civilian transports. The hulls are military grade. The power signatures indicate heavy weapon systems. And sir," the officer's voice cracked, "they're reading our scans in real time. They know exactly what systems we're using." "How is that possible?" Captain Jin's voice came through the communication system, clear and calm. "Because we've been studying you for decades, Admiral. We know every specification of every ship in your fleet. We know your tactical patterns, your response times, and your weaknesses." Kex-Tar snarled. "You know nothing. We have 46 ships to your 43. "You have 46 ships," Jin agreed. "But Admiral, you seem to have miscounted. We have 43 ships here. But check your long-range sensors." Kex-Tar's sensor officer worked frantically at his console. His 6 arms moved like lightning across the controls. Then, he went very still. "Sir, I'm detecting more human ships. Lots more. They're coming out of stealth." The main display lit up with new contacts. Ships were appearing from behind asteroids, from the dark side of planets, from deep space. Within minutes, Kex-Tar's 46 ships were surrounded by over 200 human vessels. "Impossible," Kex-Tar whispered. "Our intelligence reports showed you had only 300 ships total in your entire fleet." Captain Jin's smile grew wider. "Your intelligence was wrong about many things, Admiral. For instance, you were told that humans are weak and cowardly. You were told that we have no military experience. You were told that we would flee rather than fight." The human ships began to move with precision that made Kex-Tar's own formations look clumsy. They moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be. "You were also told," Jin continued, "that we developed our technology through trade and peaceful contact. That was also wrong. We developed it by studying every species we met, learning from every encounter, and preparing for war." Kex-Tar tried to maintain control. Even if you have more ships than we expected, quantity means nothing without quality. Our vessels are superior. Number 4. Jin nodded to someone off-screen. Suddenly, every human ship fired at once. But they were not firing weapons. They were firing focused, sonic pulses. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was immediate and devastating. Kex-Tar felt his ship shake as the sonic waves hit their crystalline hull structure. Around his bridge, several officers collapsed as the sound waves disrupted their crystal-based nervous systems. "How did you know?" Kex-Tar gasped. "Dr. Park Hyun-woo sends his regards," Jin replied. "He's been studying your species for 23 years. He knows exactly how to hurt you." Across Kex-Tar's fleet, ships began to lose power as their crystal matrices were disrupted. But the humans were not finished. As the Zephyrian ships tried to recover, the human vessels opened fire with conventional weapons. Every shot was perfectly placed, hitting weak points in the hull design that no outsider should have known about. In 15 minutes, the proud Zephyrian Third Fleet was reduced to burning wreckage. "This is impossible," Kex-Tar repeated. But his voice was weak now. His ship was dying around him, systems failing one by one. "No, Admiral. This is what happens when prey becomes predator." Jin's image leaned forward. "You spent 50 years telling yourselves that humans were weak. You never asked why a weak species spread across so many star systems. You never wondered how we always seemed to arrive at systems just after your wars ended." Kex-Tar felt cold realization spreading through his body. "You were following us. We were hunting you. Every species in your coalition. We let you fight each other, weaken each other, reveal your capabilities to us. We learned from every battle you fought. We studied every tactic you used. And when you finally turned your attention to us, we were ready." Well, emergency alarms began blaring throughout Kex-Tar's ship. His tactical officer, barely conscious, managed to speak. "Sir, emergency signal. From General Mordak's fleet. They've engaged human forces in the Vega system. They're reporting. They're requesting immediate assistance." Jin's expression did not change. "They won't get any assistance, Admiral. Because every one of your fleets is about to learn the same lesson you just learned. You are not the hunters. You never were." Kex-Tar's ship shuddered as its main reactor went critical. Through his failing displays, he could see human ships moving with deadly purpose, finishing off the few Zephyrian vessels that still showed signs of life. "What are you?" he whispered. Captain Jin Soo-min looked directly at him through the communication screen. Her eyes held the cold calculation of a born predator. "We are what you made us, Admiral. You taught us that the galaxy belongs to the strong. You showed us that survival requires becoming the apex predator. You gave us decades to prepare. Thanks for watching, and wanted to subscribe." The communication cut out as Kex-Tar's ship lost power. In the darkness of his dying vessel, he finally understood the truth. Humans had never been prey. They had always been the hunters. General Mordak crouched in his command bunker deep beneath the surface of Cathara Prime, the military capital of his empire. Above him, the sounds of battle shook the reinforced walls. His communications array crackled with desperate reports from across Catherian space. "General, the Fourth Fleet is gone." Admiral Veshtar's last transmission reported human ships appearing from nowhere. "They knew exactly where to hit our shields. The Seventh Fleet requests immediate reinforcement. They say the humans are using some kind of biological weapon. Half our crews are unconscious." Juan. "Sir, we've lost contact with the orbital defense platforms. The humans. They're not attacking them, sir." Mordak's massive claws scraped against the metal table before him. 3 days ago, he had commanded the most powerful military force in known space. Now his empire was crumbling around him. "How many fleets do we still have operational?" he rumbled. His aide consulted a tactical display. The young Kytherian's scales were pale with fear. 6 fleets report partial fighting capability. 2 are in full retreat. 3 have surrendered. Surrendered! Mordak's roar echoed through the bunker. Kytherians, do not surrender. Sir, they do when the alternative is complete annihilation. Fleet Admiral Gorth reports the humans gave his crews 2 choices: surrender or die. When he chose to fight, the humans destroyed every ship in his fleet in under 10 minutes. Mordak studied the galaxy-wide tactical display. Red dots marked the positions of human attacks. They were everywhere, striking simultaneously across hundreds of light years. No single species should have possessed the coordination and resources for such a massive operation. This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated humans had fewer than 300 ships total. His intelligence chief, Colonel Nexvor, approached the table. Her usually perfect scales looked dull and damaged. Sir, our intelligence was wrong about everything. The humans we thought were traitors and diplomats. They were spies. Every single one of them. Explain. We've been analyzing the attack patterns, sir. The humans know our ship designs better than we do. They know our tactical doctrines. They know our communication codes. They even know the personal command styles of individual admirals. Mordak felt cold fear spreading through his chest. How long have they been watching us? Based on the depth of their knowledge? Decades, sir. Maybe longer. Nexvor activated a holographic display. Look at this analysis of their attacks. They're not just using superior firepower. They're exploiting psychological weaknesses specific to our species. The display showed recordings from various battles. In each one, the humans had used different tactics tailored to their opponents. Against the Zephyrians, they had used sonic weapons that disrupted crystal-based biology. Against the Vraxians, they had employed chemical agents that triggered panic responses in insect-like nervous systems. What did they use against us? Mordak asked, though he dreaded the answer. Thermal weapons, sir. High-intensity heat beams that turn our natural armor into cooking chambers. They knew that our scales, which protect us from energy weapons, would conduct heat directly to our organs. A new voice cut through the bunker's communication system. It was calm, measured, and terrifyingly familiar. General Mordak, this is Dr. Park Hyunwoo. I believe we should talk. Every Kytherian in the bunker froze. Dr. Park had been a frequent visitor to their world over the years, supposedly studying their culture and biology for peaceful scientific purposes. He had been welcomed as a friend of the Kytherian people. How are you accessing our secure communications? Mordak demanded. Because I helped design your communication systems, General. 20 years ago, when your government requested technical assistance with quantum encryption, I made sure to include certain features. Mordak's claws extended fully. You've been spying on us for 20 years. I've been studying you, Park corrected. Your biology, your psychology, your military capabilities. I know you better than you know yourself, General. For instance, I know that right now you're planning to activate your planet's core defense systems and fight to the last soldier. Mordak's eyes widened. That was exactly what he had been planning. I also know, Park continued, that such resistance would be futile and result in unnecessary death. Your people don't have to die, General. But you need to understand what you're truly facing. We're facing humans, Mordak snarled. Weak, cowardly humans, who got lucky with a few surprise attacks. Dr. Park's laugh was soft and genuinely amused. General, let me tell you what you're actually facing. You remember the Devourer War? 47 years ago? Mordak remembered. A species of silicon-based machines had appeared from outside the galaxy, consuming entire worlds to fuel their expansion. The combined military forces of 12 species had barely managed to stop them. The Devourers were destroyed, Mordak said. No, General. The Devourers were destroyed by us. By humans. We had been watching the galaxy for decades by then, studying every species, preparing for threats. When the Devourers arrived, we eliminated them before you even knew they existed. Impossible. Check your historical records, General. The Devourer fleet disappeared over a period of 6 months. Your intelligence agencies could never explain how. They assumed the machines had retreated or malfunctioned. The truth is simpler. We hunted them down and killed them all. The bunker fell silent, except for the distant sounds of battle. You want to know what humans really are, General? We are the species that eliminated the greatest threat your galaxy had ever seen. And we did it so quietly that none of you even knew we existed. We've been protecting this galaxy for half a century, killing the real monsters before they could reach you. Then why attack us now? Mordak asked. Because you stopped being worthy of protection. You became the monsters. Park's voice grew colder. 53 years ago, we watched the Zephyrians burn the Melody Worlds. We saw the Vraxians enslave the Tau Collective. We observed your people conquer and destroy 17 peaceful species. That is the nature of the galaxy. The strong survive. No, General. That was the nature of the galaxy before humans arrived. We changed the rules. We've spent 50 years quietly eliminating every truly hostile species while pretending to be harmless traitors. Every war you thought you won, every enemy you thought you defeated, we had already weakened them for you. A new alarm began blaring in the bunker. Mordak's aide looked up from his communications console, his face pale. Sir, surface reports indicate human forces have surrounded the bunker. They're requesting your surrender. Sambhavana. Surface reports indicated sepically. Mordak looked around at his officers. These were the finest military minds his species had produced. And they all looked terrified. Outside, the sounds of battle were growing closer. What terms do you offer? He asked finally. Unconditional surrender of all Catherian military forces. Your species will be relocated to designated worlds under human supervision. You will be protected from external threats, but you will never again pose a threat to others. And if we refuse? Dr. Park was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then your species joins the Devourers, the Shadowkin, the Void Hunters, and 47 other extinct civilizations that thought they were apex predators. We are very good at extinction, General. We've had a lot of practice. Mordak closed his eyes. Around him, his officers waited for orders that would determine the fate of their entire species. How many species have you destroyed? He asked quietly. 52, General. All of them were threats to galactic peace. All of them believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. Park paused. You can be number 53, or you can choose to survive under our protection. General Mordak, Supreme Commander of the Catherian Empire, slowly reached for his communication controls. It was time to surrender to the real apex predators. 6 months later, the chamber that had once housed the Galactic Council looked very different. The crystalline throne of High Counselor Vextar was gone, replaced by a simple human chair occupied by Fleet Admiral Cho Min-jun. Around the circular room, representatives from the surviving species sat in smaller, equal seats. The massive displays that had once shown the military might of the 12-species coalition now displayed something else entirely. A galactic map, marked with the locations of 52 extinct civilizations, all eliminated by humanity over the past century. Ambassador Li Yejin stood before the assembly, no longer appearing small and fragile. Her simple gray uniform had been replaced by the formal dress of the Human Cooperative Union. When she spoke, every being in the chamber listened with complete attention. For those who have joined us recently, she began, addressing the handful of species that had surrendered rather than fight. Let me explain how we arrived at this new arrangement. She gestured to the galactic map. 103 years ago, humanity achieved faster than light travel. We sent exploration ships to survey the galaxy, expecting to find new friends and trading partners. Instead, we found a charnel house. The display zoomed in on specific regions. In the Vega sector, we found the remains of the Melody civilization. Beautiful beings who had created music that could heal psychological trauma. They were extinct, burned out by Zephyrian expansion fleets. In the Altair region, we discovered evidence of the Gentle Collective, a species that had achieved perfect harmony with their environment. The Vraxians had turned them into livestock. A low murmur went through the chamber. Most of these species had heard rumors of such conquests, but the full scope had never been revealed. Over 50 years, our scouts documented the extinction of dozens of peaceful civilizations. We realized that the galaxy was dominated by predator species that destroyed anyone weaker than themselves. Lee's voice grew harder. We decided to change that. Lee's voice. Lee's voice. Lee's voice. We decided to change that. Dr. Park Hyun-woo stepped forward. He looked older now, gray showing in his hair, but his eyes remained sharp and calculating. We began the long hunt, he announced. A systematic campaign to eliminate every species that posed a threat to galactic peace. We started with the worst offenders. The Shadowkin, who consumed sentient beings for sport. The Void Hunters, who destroyed worlds for the pleasure of watching them burn. The Devourer machines, who saw all biological life as fuel. You never told us, croaked Counselor Yeth of the Tau Collective, one of the few species to voluntarily join humanity's new order. We thought these threats simply disappeared. They did disappear, Park replied. We made sure of it, but we learned something important during those early campaigns. Direct confrontation led to massive casualties on both sides. So we changed tactics. Captain Jin Soo-min, now promoted to Admiral, activated another display. We learned to appear weak while we grew strong. We let the remaining predator species believe they were dominant while we studied them, infiltrated them, and prepared for the day when they would threaten us directly. You used us, General Mordak said. The massive Catherian sat in his designated section, his proud military bearing reduced to tired resignation. We used your aggression against you, Jin corrected. Every war you fought revealed your capabilities to us. Every conquest you made showed us your methods. You never realized that the small, insignificant humans watching your battles were actually gathering intelligence for your eventual defeat. Fleet Admiral Cho spoke for the first time, his voice carrying absolute authority. The galaxy now operates under new rules. Species that prove themselves peaceful and cooperative will be protected and allowed to flourish. Species that threaten others will be eliminated, quickly and completely. What about our autonomy? Demanded Vextar, the former High Counselor. His crystalline form was dimmed, his proud bearing broken. What about our right to determine our own destiny? Cho's expression did not change. You gave up that right when you chose to become conquerors. You had 53 years to prove that you could coexist peacefully with other species. Instead, you spent that time planning the extermination of humanity. We didn't know, Vextar protested. We didn't understand what you really were. That was the point. Admiral Lee said quietly. We gave you every opportunity to treat us as equals. We offered trade, cultural exchange, mutual cooperation. Instead, you saw weakness and planned genocide. She paused. You gave us one last warning. You told us to abandon our homes or face complete removal. That was your final chance to choose peace. Dr. Park activated another display, showing current galactic statistics. Under the new system, intersystem trade has increased by 400%. Scientific collaboration has expanded to include all surviving species. Wars between civilizations have dropped to zero. Because you destroyed everyone who might fight, Mordak said bitterly. Because we remove the predators, Park corrected. Look at the species that remain, General. The Epsilon Collective, master artists and philosophers, the Tholians, whose mathematics have revolutionized navigation, the Tau Collective, whose agricultural techniques could feed the entire galaxy. He gestured around the chamber. These are the species that were terrorized by your coalition for decades. They're now free to develop their cultures without fear. What about expansion? Asked Counselor Yeth. What happens when we encounter new species? Fleet Admiral Cho smiled, and it was not entirely pleasant. Humanity has already expanded beyond this galaxy, Counselor. We've been establishing contact with neighboring galactic clusters for 30 years. When we encounter new species, we follow the same protocol. Study, evaluate, and eliminate threats before they can harm peaceful civilizations. You're making yourselves rulers of the universe, Vextar accused. We're making ourselves guardians, Cho replied. There's a difference. Rulers seek to dominate and exploit. Guardians protect and preserve. We have no interest in controlling how your species live your daily lives. We only care that you don't threaten others. Ambassador Lee stepped forward again. The galaxy is safer now than it has been in recorded history. Trade flourishes. Science advances. Art and culture bloom across 1,000 worlds. The price of this peace is simple. Accept that humanity will eliminate any species that chooses aggression over cooperation. And what makes you think you have the right? Mordak asked. Lee's answer was simple and final. Because we have the capability, and no one else was willing to do what was necessary. For 1,000 years, peaceful species lived in terror while predators like you consumed entire civilizations. We ended that. We made the hard choices that no one else could make. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. You called us weak. You called us prey. You gave us an ultimatum and expected us to flee in terror. Her voice grew quiet, but every word carried across the silent chamber. Instead, you discovered that the prey you'd been hunting was actually the apex predator. You learned that the weak species you dismissed had been protecting the galaxy while you slept. Fleet Admiral Cho stood, indicating the session was ending. The next supply convoy to your homeworlds departs in 6 hours. Research data and cultural exchange materials will be included. Any species wishing to apply for expanded autonomy may submit applications to the Cooperative Union Council. As the representatives began to file out, Vextar lingered near his former throne. How long have you been planning this? He asked Admiral Lee. Lee considered the question carefully. Since the moment we realized that the galaxy's strongest species were also its greatest threats. Since we understood that someone had to hunt the hunters. And now? Now we expand our protection to other galaxies. There are always new threats emerging, Counselor. Species that believe strength gives them the right to destroy others. We'll find them before they find the peaceful civilizations. We'll study them, understand them, and eliminate them. Vex Estar nodded slowly. You've become the very thing you sought to destroy. You've become the galaxy's apex predators. Ambassador Lee smiled one final time. The same small smile she had shown in this chamber 6 months ago. No, Counselor. We always were the apex predators. The difference is that we hunt monsters instead of innocents. We protect instead of consume. We give species like yours the choice to change or disappear. She turned to leave, then paused at the chamber entrance. You gave us one last warning, Counselor. We showed you what we've always been. The hunters, the guardians, the protectors of those who cannot protect themselves. The chamber fell silent as the last human left. In the months that followed, the galaxy would learn to live under humanity's watchful protection. Trade would flourish. Science would advance. Art would bloom. And in the dark spaces between the stars, human scouts would continue their eternal hunt, searching for new threats to eliminate before they could harm the innocent. The masquerade was over. The real guardians of the galaxy had finally revealed themselves.